This is an episode of my podcast, Self-Love and Spiritual Growth. You can find links to my podcast in the description below. Thank you for listening. Welcome to Self-Love and Spiritual Growth with Natasha Hynes, where I remind you that you came here to be the light in a dark world. So yeah, sometimes it's gonna hurt. Sometimes it might even feel like you're not gonna make it through, but you can. And you will. You're doing better than you even know. Welcome to Self-Love and Spiritual Growth with myself, Natasha Hynes. Today I want to talk about fake spiritual people. Now, on one hand, who am I to decide who gets to be spiritual or not? Or what exactly is the definition of a spiritual person? The purpose of this podcast is not to put people in boxes or not to make rules around who can and cannot be considered a spiritual person, because in one aspect, we're all spiritual. Even narcissists, in one sense, are part of the spiritual experience, because in reality, we are all one. The idea behind this podcast is not to put definitions on people or limitations or create boxes. I want to bring light to a couple of aspects that are important to people in the spiritual community. First, there are people in the spiritual community whose intent or purpose of being in the spiritual community is not as it seems, and in actuality is actually to kibosh the ascension process, or to hinder your growth, and to feed off of empaths. Another thing is that there are people in the spiritual community who are guiding people off a cliff. I also want to mention or talk about people who may believe that they are on a spiritual journey and being service to others and making the best decisions in their view, and maybe many of us see them as such as well from the outside perspective, but in fact that they are actually service to self. And I want to explain a little bit on that. And of course, all of this is good for discussion and may be helpful to people in some aspect or another, but in the grand scheme of things, no one's really making the wrong choices, because whatever we're experiencing for a reason. So if people are lying to you and manipulating you and leading you off a cliff, it may very well be for your highest good, because we learn from our mistakes. An analogy could be, if there is a hot element on a stove, you can tell someone, let's say, take this person is completely innocent, new to earth kind of thing, doesn't know why the element is red, no idea. And you can tell this person, if you touch that, it's hot and it will hurt. And you may be scarred for life. So you should not touch it. But this person, this mystical version of a person who's never experienced earth before, who's not even sure what the word hot means, or maybe they don't even know what pain feels like, they're hearing your words, they understand your concern, but they still don't understand from your perspective. They do not understand what you mean. So they're listening to you tell them that they should not touch it. However, they will not truly understand what you mean and why you're telling them that. They won't truly understand that it's best for them to not touch it. They won't truly understand that it will cause them pain and what that means until they put their hand on the stove and they experience it firsthand. And in that experience of it, feeling that pain sears that lesson into their mind, maybe even into their soul, and they internalize that lesson. That experience and the lesson that came with it becomes a part of them. And that's an analogy for all the lessons that we learn in life, whether that be spiritual lessons or educational lessons. It's why people can go to school for a very long time and they still, once they leave school, once they graduate, no matter how good their marks were, they still need experience to really understand how to do the job properly. Because that's how we learn. Part of learning is being exposed to the information that helps us understand our experience. But the other part is actually experiencing it. And you can't take that away from anyone. So if someone needs to be led off a cliff by a narcissist on their spiritual journey, then they may very well likely need to experience that. And if someone needs to be manipulated and lied to or fed off of, they may very well need to experience that. And I'm not saying that if you're experiencing that, then you should just stay there and continue the experience. The lesson is not in the suffering. We're not meant to prolong suffering. We're meant to experience the pain, learn the lesson as fast as we possibly can, and move past it. So many people may need to be lied to and manipulated and fed off of and led off cliffs because they need to learn to stand up for themselves. They need to learn to trust themselves. They need to learn to raise their standards and respect themselves and love themselves. So part of the lesson is in receiving the information to help us find clarity, and the other part is experiencing the pain. So I'm going to do the providing of information part today, in a way. So hopefully this will help you. So the first point was that there are people in the spiritual community who are actually there to kibosh ascension and feed off of empaths. And I'm not even necessarily talking about the person themselves. As many of you know, many people are actually heavily influenced by attachments. So there are people in the spiritual community. Some of them are full of attachments, and the attachments are controlling them to infiltrate the spiritual community and then go say things and do things to people to mislead them, to hurt their feelings, to put them in a low vibrational state and to guide them off their path. Maybe they're feeding them information that is inaccurate, or maybe they're putting out lies or photoshopped images and saying it's one thing when it's another, or saying that they received a channeling and the channeling either wasn't real or was actually channeled negative entities. And so the message is meant to influence people to make bad decisions or to question themselves when they thought they knew the truth, or to question their own intuition. A lot of the time, they might just want to cause people pain and frustration so that the entities can feed off of them. Especially in a community like this, full of empaths, because as I've said before, empaths don't just feel, they also express, they emanate more energy than the average person. That's, in my opinion, from my experience. And so we are a great food source for negative entities that need sustenance. There is an agenda by negative entities to keep as many humans in a lower density as possible to prevent them from ascending, because if they could do that, they would have a continued food source. Because once we ascend to fourth density, they can't feed off of us anymore. And that's why it's important to take responsibility for yourself. to take responsibility for yourself to make sure that you do transition to fourth density the easiest way possible. Because maybe we all get to ascend, or maybe only people who are in the right vibrational state, service to others by 51% or more at the appropriate time, will ascend into the fourth density at this time. And then other people may still need to continue living in third density so that they can experience the lessons that they need for their own personal soul growth for as long as that is necessary for them. It's not a bad thing to not ascend. It's whatever is right for each individual. It's only that we're at a time now where we have this acceleration, we have an opportunity to evolve faster than normal. There's a door opening, and the door will be open again for others in the future, but it'll be a long time from now. And so we have an opportunity to step through that door when it opens. But we have to be in the right vibration or mind state or whatever. We have to be of service to others, of 51% or more, when that door opens. It's very simple. And if you're not, that's okay too. But you get to continue on in third density and learn those lessons that you need to learn for your own soul growth. And if you're listening to this podcast, let me reassure you that there's a very good chance that you're fine. But if you want a reality check, look out at the world. Go to the grocery store and walk around and look at people. And ask yourself if everyone is ready. Or if you think that it's a possibility that not everyone is going to be ready to walk through this door. And that they're going to have to continue in third density until the time is right for them. Because it's not fair to push people to a higher density when they're not ready for it, in my opinion. Higher density doesn't mean better. So yes, there are people in the spiritual community who want to keep you off mission, and they want to keep you in a low vibration so you can be food, continue to feed the entities, and possibly kibosh your ascension process or attempt to do so. Then some people might not actually be just people, and some people are definitely narcissists. And there are even many, this blew my mind. At first glance, we want to believe that people in the spiritual community are all nice and loving and service to others and all this. But in reality, like I said, the spiritual community, these Facebook groups for light workers and spiritual people are full of empaths. We're like a bright light that attracts all the moths. And by moths, I mean narcissists and predators and negative entities, and so on and so forth. So I was quite shocked to realize that some of the mods, some of the admins in these love and light Facebook groups are really not nice people. Some of them are absolute control freaks and narcissists. And I have screenshot conversations that I've had with at least one, if not more of them, who have been very clear about having an agenda to live in their ego and tear people down. If you have a Facebook group with 100,000 people in it, it's very, very difficult to manage So you need more mods and more admins to be able to take on some of the workload, to be able to filter through all the posts coming in and the comments and checking on who's reporting what and why and whatever, right? Making sure people aren't spamming and harassing people in the group or whatever. So you take on more mods. And the thing is that you can't really do a thorough background check. You can't properly vet someone who wants to be a mod when you're taking on dozens and dozens of mods to handle the workload. So what happens is some of these groups have like 40 admins, and at least one of those admins is gonna be a jerk. And that's what happened to me. I was trying to be helpful, and I became a target for this one particular admin who kept removing my posts and kept telling me that I was breaking the rules, which I wasn't. And then I kept asking them what I needed to do to be able to oblige the rules. And they would tell me things like, well, you can go out into the street and go help old people cross the street and give people hugs. I'm like, what does that have to do with the group? It has nothing to do with the group. And the conversation just got weirder and weirder. And it was very clear that they had an agenda to oppress my posts. And at first, when you're experiencing this, and this is one of the reasons I'm talking about this, is because at first when you're experiencing this, it feels like it's just you. It feels like maybe you're in the wrong because no one else seems to be experiencing this. But that's only because it's happening privately. When I did the live stream with Brandy last week, we had a conversation the day before where she had experienced similar things or had seen similar things. So I realized it wasn't just me and that other people are being oppressed as well. So you have these groups that are like, we're love and light. We want everyone to come here and help each other. And if you're here, you should definitely offer help. And then as soon as you offer help, they're like, no, well, you can't really offer help because that's spam. And you're like, what are you talking about? It's free. And if people don't want it, they don't have to take it. And you just told me that I should offer help. It's like, what do you mean? What kind of help do you want me to offer? And then they're telling you that you should go hug people and help homeless people and help people cross the street. And you're like, that has literally nothing to do with this. What are you talking about? So they just make it absolutely impossible to contribute in the group. So that's one example of how social media is oppressing and suppressing light work. So we have to do it ourselves. We just have to figure out another way. You can't let things like that stop you. You can't let YouTube suppressing your channel and all these things stop you. You can't let Facebook blocking your posts from being seen or removing them saying that they're breaking guidelines or posting things under them saying that fact check says that it's wrong when you absolutely know for a fact that what you said was true. This, like, you can't let, it's obviously being done for a reason, and this is just part of the game. It's our job to find a way around it, and we will. Because even though these people may be trying, or entities may be trying to suppress us or oppress us or take us off mission or put us in a bad mood, these are all lessons for us to learn from and become better at what we do. I strongly believe that we planned this so well before we came in here that we knew all their moves, and then we came in here being able to, it's like there's a martial art that I'm thinking of that's like this. Maybe it's judo or something, where someone makes a move, they attack you, and you use the force of their attack to throw them off course or to defend yourself. So you're not exerting any force, you're just moving their force. You're using their attack against them. It's basically what we're doing. So you're a light worker, you're born into a family of narcissistic abuse, and You're targeted because you're an empath. You're a light worker. You're probably an empath. So you're targeted by narcissists. You're abused. You're bullied, blah, blah, blah. They think that they're keeping you down, when in reality, they're simply giving you the exact training that you came here for so that you can do your mission. So they think that they are attacking you to be able to possibly win, but all they're doing is they're giving you the force that you will translate into the results that you want to see. So don't trust people just because they're in the spiritual community. I'm not saying to be paranoid. I'm just saying to use your discernment and to trust yourself and to try to think and act from a place of love and try not to react to things because maybe they're pushing your buttons for a reason. The mods may not always be on your side. The posts may not always be real. I saw this woman post something which was very, very obviously photoshopped. And she was talking about it like she just took the picture in the kitchen with her mother. And I'm just like, there is something, like my spidey sense is going off hard on this one. There is something wrong here. And I went to see her profile, and it's weird because it looks like it could be real. There's a profile picture, but there's maybe 2 or 3 pictures of her. But you know what? A lot of us, we like our anonymity. So we don't put all our pictures online. Some of us, some of the most authentic light workers don't put any pictures of themselves online. They're not even using their real name. But I think the best way to tell if someone's authentic is to see what they're actually posting. What is the message that they're spreading? And so I went through this person's post. And the other weird thing that threw me off was that their profile, their Facebook page profile had only been created like 2 years ago or something. Which is possible too, because some of us, maybe we have a profile, but we don't really want to use that profile to go talk about aliens and stuff because maybe it's bad for our job, or maybe we have people in the family who would harass us for it, or maybe we're just not comfortable yet. So that's possible. Sure, you don't have any pictures. That's possible. Your profile is new. Maybe that's possible. And then I went down her posts, and a lot of her posts seemed very love and light. Puppies and kitties and stuff like that. And a couple of them sounded legit, but like moderate legit. Like aliens are real kind of thing, or chakra alignment, but not really the real stuff, like a real post, talking about the pedophilia or other really important topics that the kind of stuff that is actually being oppressed on social media that a lot of us are very passionate about. And not everybody talks about this stuff, but when someone's really going out on a limb and talking about topics that are oppressed, then there's a higher chance that they're legit. But it still doesn't mean that someone only talking about chakra alignment and meditation isn't legit. This could still be an authentic person and an authentic profile. Even though there's barely any pictures and it's only been created 2 years ago, it's possible it's authentic. And then I scroll down some more and I see that this person has a business and where they're a psychic. So that sounds like it could be authentic because they're a person with a business and you can contact them and you could pay them for a service and all this stuff. And they could be using this profile to promote their business or whatever. But it could still be a fake person. What if that person's a shill that was implanted in the community to give people psychic readings that purposely harm them in some way? You know what I mean? Like telling them to get off mission, or telling them that everything's okay and they don't need to do anything when they really do, or whatever. I don't know. Or maybe just to make money off of people in the community, or maybe it's there just to be some form of credibility that this is actually a real person and a real profile. I don't know. It just gets real, like mind trippy rabbit hole kind of, am I a paranoid freak kind of thing? Or is it possible that this is a fake profile by a shill that was placed in the community for a purpose? One of the posts threw me off. I don't remember exactly what it said. I think I screenshot it, so I probably still have it somewhere. But it was about Enki and Enlil. And what she said in the post sounded like she was insinuating in a very subtle way that the right thing to do was to engage in Luciferianism. But she didn't use the word Luciferianism or Satanism, but she said that it was Enki or Enlil. Pretty sure she said Enki. That something to the effect of prescribing certain behavior as godly, which was actually, she was describing Luciferianism and prescribing Luciferianism. And she had said that it was some kind of like a download or something I think she had gotten. So, take what you want from it, because maybe she's not even aware. Maybe she's a real person, and she wasn't even aware that it's possible that that was a negative entity giving her that message and lying to her. Or she's a shill infiltrating the spiritual community and very subtly planting seeds, trying to guide the herd off the cliff, trying to make people believe and accept Luciferianism and Satanism as spirituality and as the way of the divine. It's a very subtle manipulation. And imagine if there were hundreds of profiles like that. That's why it's important that we use our discernment and that we trust ourselves and we trust our gut and we try to keep connected to the divine and to our guides. And so that we are not at the mercy of unquestioningly listening to other people tell us how to live and what to believe. What was a real red flag for me, even despite all those things I mentioned, was this one post that she had posted that really got me going, where it was very clearly photoshopped to me, and she had been adamant about how it was an authentic picture that she took herself with her mother, supposed mother, who was never seen, as a witness. So believe what you want, take what you want from that. I don't want to make people paranoid, but it's good to be aware that it's a possibility that there are shills planted in the community to subtly guide us off our path. I'm going to mention this, and it's going to really piss off a lot of people, and that's okay. As I say, you can take what you want and leave the rest. This is my opinion. You do not have to have the same opinion as me, but I have it for a reason. Teal Swan. I used to follow her, loved her, thought she was great, even though something in my gut was telling me something's off. But my mind was like, well, she was abused and all this crazy stuff happened to her, so that maybe that has something to do with why I'm feeling a weird twinge, like something's off. But something's off, And years, like I didn't really religiously watch her videos, but I'd watch one here and there. And one day, this video about her popped up in YouTube. She had just posted her own video. She had posted it herself, about herself, which is totally fine because people want to know who you are and what you stand for. And I do that sometimes, and I intend to do once in the future. That's not the problem. The problem was in that video, at first it seemed great. And then she had said this one thing about how her soul is a special soul and it's different from everyone else's. No one else's soul is like Teal Swan's soul, because she's a special soul who came here for the divine purpose to tell people how to live their life. Something to that effect. And don't quote me on that, it wasn't verbatim, but it was very much to that effect. And that was a big slap in the face to me, because if you watch my videos, you may have seen my series or mini-series on my spiritual awakening. You know that part of my journey was that I was brought into the woods for like 2 months and manipulated by a cult leader. And after that experience, I did a ton of research on cults and narcissism and narcissists and psychopaths and how they think and how they get people indoctrinated into their cult and all that. So I'm pretty well versed on cults. And that's when it occurred to me that that's exactly what Teal Swan, her mentality is. I'm not saying that people who follow Teal Swan are in a cult. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying that Teal Swan is a narcissist, and specifically a communal narcissist. I believe that's word, communal narcissist, where they're the type of person that wants everyone in the community to think that they are this super spiritual, loving, divine person, but put them on a pedestal and worship them. So another part of my series, my spiritual awakening series, was when I was dealing with that woman at the refuge for cats. That's what she was as well, or is. She's the type of person that you would think is a really nice person, because they devote a lot of time. Well, I don't think she does it anymore, but they devote a lot of time to some cause of some sort. But when you really get beneath the surface, you realize that what they're doing is they're creating a persona for themselves, an identity for themselves that is worshipable. They want people to believe that they're this super nice, super giving, super loving person, but that's their intention and motivation behind what they do. They don't do it because they feel bad for the cats or feel bad for the people and they want to help. They're not doing it out of their heart. They're not being service to others. They're being service to self, because they're just saying a bunch of stuff that, or in Teal Swan's situation now, so the cat lady, let's say, she would be doing things that look nice on the outside so that people talk about her like she's an angel. She was getting narcissistic supply from it. She was getting narcissistic supply from telling people, oh, I work so hard and my life is so hard. And people would be like, oh my God, you're such a saint. You're a saint. My God, you're a saint, right? Narcissistic supply. Because a non-narcissist would probably recognize that, and with the exception that a lot of us maybe have severe trauma from narcissistic abuse, and because of our low self-esteem, we may constantly be looking for validation, but that and maybe not quite being as empathetic or sympathetic as we should and could be, but that's not because we're narcissists, but because we're coping with our pain. But most people would recognize that other people are also working really hard and also tired and also doing great things. And don't be fooled by when the narcissist tells you you're doing such a great job, because they are love bombing you or something else. In the Teal Swan scenario, for example, is that there's an interview, a podcast interview or a YouTube video, whatever, where she's being interviewed with her boyfriend, which may possibly be her current boyfriend. I think he's from France or something. And the way she's talking and the way he's talking about who she is and how she is, it just becomes more and more evident. It's like at first you're like, what? That's interesting. That's okay. And like, he'll talk about her like she's some super special magic force. Like, oh, well, Teal's super amazing because she can just sit there and do like 4 videos in a day. And it's like, yeah, maybe she can. And it's not the fact that he's giving her compliments, but the fact that they're talking about her like she has superpowers. It's like, okay, that's cool that you can sit there and talk to a camera for like an hour or 2. That's cool. It's good, but is that a superpower? No, because other people do it, and you've had a channel for multiple years, and you're not acknowledging the fact that many other people work even harder than you. And that's weird. It's weird. And then the way they're like, well, she can tell me what I'm doing wrong, but I can't tell her what she's doing wrong. And that's a huge narcissist red flag. But they rationalized it like, well, she's just been so traumatized and she's so hard on herself that she said, well, I'm hard enough on myself that I don't want to hear it from them. I'm like, okay. In that moment, when I watched this was like a couple years back, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, I get that. I could totally get that. Yeah. And I rationalized everything she said. I'm like, yeah, okay. This is kind of weird. But yeah, okay. But they were very much talking about her like she's some sort of magical, mystical beast. And that's weird to me. And also, you're some spiritual guru who knows how other people should live their lives. And yet you can't take 1 ounce of criticism from your boyfriend? That's kind of weird. And it sounds to me like a very toxic relationship. Imagine being in a relationship with someone where you can never tell them what's wrong. That's toxic. So her boyfriend's walking on eggshells all the time because he can never tell her what's wrong. That's toxic. So even back then, I still didn't get it. But then when this video came out that she put out about herself, where she literally went into how she's a special soul, that no other soul is like her, and she is a magical, mystical beast that came to Earth to help other people learn to live their lives. Come on. Come on. People who come to teach, to inspire, to help, they're full of flaws just like everybody else. And they know what to tell people and what to teach people because they experienced garbage, they experienced their own fumbles, and then they learned from them. They figured things out. No one's put on this planet as this perfect, magical, mystical person that knows all the answers. But poor me, I was, tortured by this person, even though all the facts in my history make absolutely no sense. So I'm watching this video and I'm like, my spidey sense is now going off hardcore. I'm like, that is a clear red flag that this person's a narcissist. And then I started thinking about things and I'm like, oh my God, she has so many signs that she's a narcissist. I'm like, I wonder if there's any legitimacy to this, or if I'm just reading into this too much. So I did some research, and it took me like 2 seconds to find out that someone else had done way more research, and they had really dug deep into this, and they have so much evidence to prove my theory that Teal Swan is a narcissist on the end of the spectrum that makes them a cult leader. So, with that said, you have every right to tell me to go F off if you think that I'm wrong and you love Teal Swan. That's fine. You can also, if you watch her videos and you get something from it and you learn something and it makes you feel good, great. I hope that at the very least that you don't unquestioningly listen to her, and that you have not been convinced that some people are special and magical, mystical beasts, and that you are less special than them, and that you're less worthy or lower on the totem pole than they are. Because that's a bunch of BS. Since I'm going to get into it, oh my God. Okay, listen. I just want to say that everybody, including myself, who teaches and guides and whatever, is going to say dumb stuff sometimes. You're going to be wrong. I'm going to be wrong. They're going to be wrong, whatever. One of these days, I'm going to, maybe sooner than later, do an in-depth episode on signs of narcissism and cults and how to identify a narcissist and how to identify a cult leader or a communal narcissist, how to identify the kind of person that I'm talking about that tries to lead people off a cliff, because that's probably a whole long topic on its own, because there are a lot of signs. And there are things that can be misinterpreted and rationalized. So I want to give you guys the best possible tools to be able to judge for yourself. But the best advice I can give you is to trust yourself and to know that even if you're being conned, maybe it's for the best in a way, because maybe it's something that you need to learn. Maybe there's something that you need to realize within yourself so that you can learn the next time to be able to spot these people from a mile away. You should also be aware, if you're not already, that not everything people say is true, and that some people who claim to have special magical powers or be special magical people are actually just in it for validation. And I'm going to give you an example, because some people get offended by this because it's hard to prove your own abilities, right? And myself, I feel crazy sometimes when I try to describe what I've experienced and why I trust it and why I believe it. Like my dreams, I have premonitions, and my channeling, like it sounds crazy. And in a way, a lot of it is not provable, but it doesn't make it not real. It's just that I have a choice to believe it or not believe it, and so do you, you know? But then there are people who are completely making stuff up. And they're doing it because they want to feel a sense of validation. Is that it really that important to know if they're making it up or if they're not? Because are we getting something of value of it? You know, do we need to know it's true? No, we need to learn to be able to discern. We need to learn how to be able to trust ourselves. Even if I'm channeling for you, and I know that what I'm channeling is authentic to the best of my ability, because even then, like, I am aware that my conscious mind can bias the information and all that and how that works. So I still question the validity of my own channelings a lot, but I know that some of the stuff that comes out was not from me because it's too smart. And I didn't know it before I did the channeling. But I can't tell you, well, this is true and this isn't, so believe this and don't believe that. What it comes down to is your ability to learn how to discern, your ability to learn how to choose what you want to take in and what you don't, what resonates with you and what doesn't, what supports your truth and what doesn't, what helps you, what serves you and what doesn't. Sometimes things that resonate with us are just things that support our current belief system, but they're not really the truth. They just keep us comfortable. And then other things that contradict our current belief systems cause us discomfort. We feel cognitive dissonance. And so we might say things like, this does not resonate with me, when in reality, it is just because we don't want to believe it. And all this, there's no simple answer. This is all part of the journey. It's part of the learning process. But it's nice to be aware that some people are making it up for validation because they're not making claims because they're having an experience and they believe their experience, or they're trying to understand their experience, or they're trying to serve people with their experience, or have a better understanding of the nature of reality with their experience. But what they're doing is they have such a low self-esteem and self-worth, and they lack self-identity, and something sounds good to them, and it might even be something that is true in a way, but they pervert it, they warp it, and they run with it because it makes them feel special or makes them feel better about themselves. And I'll give you an example. And you can absolutely, like I always say, take what you want, leave the rest. You don't have to agree with my opinion. You can tell me I'm a crazy person, that's fine. But I had an interaction with a person in one of these Facebook groups where they said, first of all, they were constantly reporting other people and telling other people how to think and saying this offends me, that's not right, this offends me, you can't say that. Like there's a can and can't, right? And so very clearly this person's in their ego, they're being triggered, they have a lot of work to do, and so on. And then they start talking about how I'm a Pleiadian, and I'm not trying to offend people who actually have Pleiadian souls, or maybe are Pleiadians, or have interacted with Pleiadians or whatnot. What I said was, no, you're not. You might have a Pleiadian soul, but you're not a Pleiadian, you're a human. And that, what I intended from that was to have a further discussion so that they can understand what I mean, that we are all human, even if we have souls that are Pleiadian. If we have a human body living on Earth, born on Earth, that makes you a human. Also, what stuck out to me was that I really had my doubts that a Pleiadian from the Pleiades would be on Facebook telling other people what to think and what to say and reporting comments. And 2 seconds later, my comment disappeared and I was blocked from the page. Why do you think that happened? So they obviously reported my comment saying that I was harassing them or whatever. And I got blocked from an Ascension page. Oh my God. All for having an opinion that was different from someone else. Because, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are Pleiadian. Maybe people from the Pleiades travel all this distance to come to Earth to get into Facebook arguments and tell people how offended they are and censor them. And so then it comes down to, well, how do we know who's a real Pleiadian and who's a real human? Well, I'm pretty sure I just gave a definition. So in saying I'm a Pleiadian, in that sense, yelling it all over Facebook, that behavior is highly indicative of someone who is acting out of low self-esteem, ego, because when you do that, you're trying to tell people that you're special, that you're better than them. That's basically the point that I'm trying to bring home here, is that we shouldn't put people on pedestals just because they are claiming to be different or special or magical beasts or whatever, or aliens or whatever. Because not only does no one have the right to tell you what to believe and how to live and how to think and what you're allowed to say on Facebook to not be offended. And also, technically, we're all aliens. You might have a body that you believe is Pleiadian, but if you're in third density living on Earth as a human, you're a human. Just like you look at different races, let's say, okay? The differences between races, I hate that word, but physical attributes among clusters of people, you can see that some clusters of people were most likely originating from a different alien society or culture than another. But we're still all human. We are all human. We are all human with human alien DNA, but we're all human. And once we can start, and many of us have souls from different star systems or whatever, probably every single person listening to this podcast is probably not a soul that originated on Earth or whatever, however that works. But you're still human. In this lifetime, you're still human. And it's beautiful to get to know all aspects of yourself and to understand your origin and your family beyond the family you were born into. It's something else to go around toting it like a flag as if it makes you better than other people. It's beautiful to realize your differences and to talk about, like, it's One thing, which is an amazing thing, to be able to have a conversation with all these cool new realizations of who you are or may be related to or may have been in a past life or where your soul is from. This is amazing, and we're all very interested in that. I love to know about that. I love to hear about that. I love to talk about it. I love it. But that doesn't mean that it's helpful to anyone if you have the attitude behind it, the intention behind it, to go around telling people, I'm special and I'm better than you because of it. I'm different and I'm better than you because of it. I'm a Pleiadian and you're just a lowly human. So listen to me because I have the answers. I'm a special, magical soul. So listen to me because I have the answers. Because you're just a lowly human. And this brings me to my last point about being service to others versus being service to self. Some of us believe that we are being service to others by making others see the light. Meaning we think that we have the answers. We may thoroughly believe that we have the answers. Maybe we read The Law of One from front to back. Maybe we've invested hundreds or thousands of hours into documentaries and books and learning about the chakra alignment and all that. And then we see someone who doesn't see things the way we see them. And instead of allowing them to come to us and allowing them to live their journey and to go at their own pace, we decide we're going to fix them or we're going to help them by force feeding the information to them, ramming it down their throat, and then criticizing and judging them for not wanting it or for not getting it or for not being ready or whatever. If you find that either someone is cramming information down your throat telling you that they know better than you, well, maybe avoid that person because they don't. They might have information that you don't have, but if you don't want to know something, or if you're not ready to know something, or you're not interested in something, then maybe it's not for you. Or maybe it's not time for you, and that's totally fine. Or maybe they don't even know what they're talking about, and that's also possible too. If you find that you yourself are trying to cram information down people's throats, like a lot of us might be afraid for our family to either not ascend or whatever. We might be afraid for them to make bad decisions. Maybe we understand that vaccines are bad and we want them to understand, but they don't want to listen, and we're afraid for them. We're afraid for their children. So we're doing it for the right reasons, but we're not doing something that's going to be of service to them. Being of service to them is living by example and providing the information, but allowing them to choose it. Allowing them to choose to come to it. And if they don't choose to come to it, if they choose otherwise, that is a valid choice because that is where they are. And it's unfortunate, but it is necessary for their growth. Things are not right or wrong. Things are what they are. It is a process. When you make a decision, you are not making the right or wrong decision. You're making a decision. Hopefully a decision that serves you. And even if that decision ends up causing you pain, that pain will serve you because it provides you an opportunity to learn and to grow. So it is not, in fact, service to others to force them to believe what we believe, or to take actions as we would take, or to accept the information that we know is truth. It is actually service to self when we're doing that, because we're trying to alleviate our own feelings of guilt. We're trying to feel better. We're trying to feel like we're making the changes that need to be changed, or whatnot, but that is not service to them. You're not serving them by forcing them out of their own free will. Just like I talk about when I talk about how to say no and how many of us allow ourselves to be walked all over because we're afraid that if we say no and the other person hurts, like we hurt their feelings or they feel rejected or whatever, that we're doing them a disservice. And in order to be service to others, that we must say yes all the time. And that's absolutely not true. Sometimes the best way to serve someone is to allow them to feel pain and to feel the repercussions to their actions and to allow them the opportunity to learn from that situation. And it's in your growth, it's your lesson to let go and let other people make their own decisions and to let other people live. It's your lesson to learn how to truly be of service to others. And I'm sure there's a lot of yeah buts going on when you're listening to this, and that's fine. If you want more on this, or if you want to argue with me, that's totally cool too. I love a good chat. You can come leave comments on my YouTube channel, Natasha Hynes. So that's youtube.com/Natasha Hynes. The link is probably in the description, and also the link to my website is there where you can find free stuff, including my course, Self-Love for Empaths. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.